Dempsey, this whole Liverpool situation, how long have we talked about this? And then you had, Roma peeking into it, and they were, kind of trying to steal Dempsey right from underneath Liverpool. And now Liverpool, they're all looking at 10 million, right? As the magic number. That's what Fulham wants. And they're thinking they could get Dempsey for less if they throw Charlie Adams in to that deal. I still don't know if it's going to get done. Something's got to get done, because I know Dempsey does not want to go back to Fulham at this point. He has made that absolutely clear.
Exactly. Dempsey's made it clear. Fulham are going to make a deal before too long. They're not going to want to lose him for free. I mean, he can come back and he might have another solid season. Fulham might stay up, but then they're going to lose, a potential player that could bring him in anywhere between 7 to 10,000 or 10 million pounds or whatever.
Right.
And they're not stupid. They're gonna take it, but they're holding off, and they're gonna let Liverpool and Roma battle it out. And they're going to see what's the best offer. And I guarantee you, they're going to take an offer, because they're not going to let him go for free.
Now, according to English papers, Dempsey's preference is to stay in England and play with Liverpool. I mean, obviously, he's got his kids, his wife there. They're settled in. That's where they would like to stay. But really, I would rather see him go to Roma, not only because I think he would do really well in the Serie A, and you think that too, but also because he can play with Michael Bradley, and they could improve their chemistry. I think that would do a lot for the both of them, and it always helps to have another guy from the same country on your team. I don't know.
Well, especially one that can speak Italian.
Oh yeah.
No, I agree. I would love to see Dempsey in Serie A. I think his game would only magnify there. I think he'd do extremely well. I think he'd play to his strengths.
Yeah.
Not to say that he wouldn't do well with Liverpool in EPL. He's shown that he can do well in the EPL. So I'm not concerned with either which team he goes to. I as you mentioned, I would like to see him go to Roma, simply because it would build a connection between him and Bradley, which I'm positive they already have started, because they've been on they've been playing together for 4 years now.
Yeah.
But this would only strengthen it.
No, absolutely. All right. By the way, before I go on, the craziest thing, I was doing some research on the Olympics. I don't know what it was, and I think one of the athletes was called. They said he was Manx, Manx. So I'm like, Manx. Well, I don't know. I know what does that mean, Manx? So I looked it up, and those are the people from the Isle of Man are called Manx. The Isle of Man, which is just off the coast of Great Britain, of England. So I looked this up, and the craziest thing happened. There was for years a GP series, a motorcycle race series, and there still is, but it's not official Grand Prix series. They're called the Isle of Man TT race. This is literally the most insane race you have ever seen in your life, because these motorbikes are going like 160 miles per hour around turns, and the racetrack itself is very thin, and it's lined with stone walls. Okay, stone walls.
You're dead.
So in the last 100 years of this race, since its inception, there have been 200. And I can't even remember the number exactly. It's like 268 or some people have died, including every year. So, and they haven't even done 2012. Like 3 people died in 2011. Yet these crazy people keep racing on this. So I had to bring it up, because it's one of those things that you read and you're just like, are you kidding me? People are still doing this? This race is still allowed to happen when 2 or 3 people die racing this every year? And of course, as you know, if you know motorcycle racing, you don't have much protection. You got a helmet, and that's it.
Sorry, but if it's lined with stone bricks, I don't care if you're wearing a helmet.
And that's just one section. The race itself is like 13 kilometers or something. It's a long racetrack. I'm off there. It's long. Let's just say that. And there's another section that's on the face of a cliff as you're going up a hill, a mountain, if you will. And if you fly off of it, as someone did, I think a couple years ago, you fly hundreds of feet down a hill, that's like has rocks and stone walls, and then there's some sheep or lambs at the bottom. And some guy went off a couple of years ago, and he barely survived it. But there's footage of that on YouTube. Just look up Isle of Man TT race, and you'll just be blown away by the massive insanity of it all. It's really
you may be wrong on something. I think you're mentioning the distance, but I really doubt any of our viewers know it. And if you do, please post in the comment.
Oh, absolutely.
How Derek is wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm wrong about the length of the race. I know it's almost it's like they compare it to Nürburgring in Germany. It's so long. I mean, and there's a post on there. There's a video on YouTube where they actually have a bike rider with a camera on, and he races the whole race. And as he's going through this turn or that turn or that turn, it lists all the people that have died on that turn or that crossing that bridge.
The entire time it's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Oh, it's insane. And you know the weird thing is about it is, Brett, that you can't find any footage on YouTube of anyone who crashed and died on this race. And I don't know if that's because the Isle of Man, this is their official state race, right? And it used to be an official Grand Prix race, but the problem was, became so dangerous, the riders refused to show up anymore. So now they have these races, and you can, anybody, you know, if you're an amateur, you can race there, whatever. And you have to, I'm sure, sign off on some paper that says if I die, it's not the racetrack's fault.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It's insane. I mean, and they do those weird sidecar races there too with the motorcycles. That's really big, and those people are. And anyhow, you can go to Wikipedia and look up Isle of Man TT race, and you can see the list of how many people have died racing that track. And anybody who does it must be absolutely insane. That's all I have to say.
And this all started because of Manx.
Manx, yeah, because I had to look up Manx, and then I saw, and then I was like, well, you know, I saw when I looked it up, it said Isle of Man. I clicked on Isle of Man, and then it had Isle of Man TT race and deaths, and I said, Isle of Man TT. I've never heard of this before, but apparently it was one of the most biggest races.
You thought it said titty, did you?
No, just TT. No titty.
Oh, TT. Okay.
No, I named. No, anyhow, I wouldn't click on anything that said titty anyhow, because that could take you to some very dangerous places, and you'll end up with a virus, and before you know, your computer doesn't work.
Buying a new computer. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, okay, so that's insane, and let's just go with the whole insane theme here, which is, this would have been insane to me, at least when we started off, because I thought Brazil was the baddest ass of the baddest asses at the Olympics, but Mexico beats Brazil in the final 2-1, and Honduras, I think, had a great tournament as well. And I guess the comment is, or the thought is, what does this say about CONCACAF, and does anybody really care?
Well, as far as Mexico is concerned, it doesn't say much about CONCACAF because they've always had very talented youth, and they've always done well in the youth levels, as well as the seniors for that matter.
Right.
But having Honduras do well, I think that says more about CONCACAF. That, you know, the region itself is getting a little more competitive. Teams are getting a little deeper. I mean, we see Honduras and Costa Rica when they make it into the World Cup. You know, they may not move on, but you know what? They put up a fight. Yeah. And that's what you got to point out when you see, you know, United States or Mexico going over to Costa Rica and then losing, or maybe drawing. Yeah. You know, instead of saying, oh, they only drew Costa Rica, or they lost to Costa Rica 3-1. You know, that's because they're not an easy team to beat by any means. But now I think as far as with Honduras doing well, I think it's really making a little bit more of a point that, you know, CONCACAF's not as easy as everybody thinks it is.
You know, and I don't know if this, and somebody mentioned it. Oh God, who was it? It was Kyle Martino, and he said what this does is it really kind of tells the rest of the world, hey, look out, the CONCACAF is getting a lot better. And I think it does say that but everybody knows that Mexico's good anyhow, so I don't think anybody was shocked by that. But I think I don't think anybody was that nobody's going to look at these results and say, well, that really means that the next generation of CONCACAF players are going to be great. It does say that Honduras is going to be pretty darn good down the road, I think. But I don't think, like, you know, if you're You're responsible for looking for players to sign for the future for an top English Premier League team. I don't think that you're I don't know. I don't think this blows you away or anything. I think it'll help some Mexican players down the line, but I don't think anybody ever takes the Olympics seriously enough where this actually turns into something down the line that we're all shocked or not shocked by because of the result we just saw. Mexico is going to be a good team.
Very much.
But, I don't think this says Mexico is going to win a World Cup in 8 years. I don't think that's what
they very
says.
Well could.
They could, but I doubt it.
The Olympics don't necessarily tell you that because, again, it's the U23 league. And like I said, Mexico is a very talented team. From the seniors down through the youth levels, they've always done well in the youth levels, especially of recent. They're a talented squad, and then you have to look at their history against teams like Argentina and Brazil. They have a pretty decent history against them.
Right, exactly.
So, it didn't surprise me that Mexico beat Brazil. Regardless that that was pretty much the same Brazil squad that beat us 5-0.
Yeah,
5-0. Yeah,
they slammed us.
Yeah. So, and then people are looking at that and saying, "Well, if Brazil beat us 5-0 and then Mexico beat Brazil 2-1, what's that going to say when we face Brazil or Mexico?" Soccer doesn't work like that. Sorry,
it doesn't work that way.
Just because we beat Scotland 5-0 and we lost to Brazil 5-0 doesn't mean that Brazil would beat Scotland 10-0.
No,
it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. But I do have to say, this next Mexican national team and this next Mexican generation are a step up from their predecessors.
They're going to be tough. They're going to be wrong. Really they'll probably take the Hex.
Yeah.
I have no doubt in that. They're a very talented squad, and it's gonna be tough to compete against them.
And it's not going to be in the next number of years just Mexico and U.S. Honduras is going to add. They're always in the mix, but they're going to be very serious competitors from here down the road. I think they're almost going to take over Costa Rica's role, as the other team outside of Mexico and the United States.
And a lot of people are questioning whether or not the U.S. is going to hold on to their number 1, number 2 seed, depending, or not number 2 now, given that Mexico is doing so well. But you look at all the U20s failed to qualify, the U23s failed to qualify, the U17s flamed out.
Yep.
How they're going to do this round, I don't know. It's one of those things that the U.S. never really had. They do okay in the youth level. They sometimes have a generation that does well.
We've had some good youth teams prior to more recently.
It doesn't equate to the senior level.
No, it hasn't for us.
No.
We've had some great youth World Cups in the past, and that has not really amounted to anything for 8 years down the road. So, we've gotten better, but not. It didn't reflect our performance in the youth.
You can say the same thing about the U17, U20 Nigerian squads that have won, their respective youth World Cups.
Yeah.
And just because they've won those doesn't mean that Nigeria turns into this super world power.
Right. There's just a lot of development that goes on between the ages of 17 and 23.
Physically,
yeah, mentally, I think mentally is like the big thing. Donovan was a great player when he was young. Mentally, no, he wasn't a great player. He couldn't. You send him off to Germany, and he wasn't ready for it. So yeah, that transition it can be really difficult for a lot of players when they're young, and then some of them blossom later. Some of them, very rarely for us, unfortunately, have players blossomed extremely early and been superstars at a very young age. We just don't have a lot of that, unfortunately, here in the U.S.
You can blame it on the culture as a whole. We don't have that, soccer first mentality.
Yeah.
Like you do with other countries. I think it was Conrad asked. He asked on one of his shows on
Jimmy.
Kick. Yeah. He's like, why haven't we created? We have more people playing youth soccer than majority of the countries, maybe outside of China or something like that.
Right.
Why haven't we created a Ronaldo or a Messi? And quite simply, we just don't have the culture.